Hi everyone! This is the final sequel to the Music Fundamental series, and in this video we're going to focus on the bigger design in music, how melodies and harmonies are varied to create different musical textures, expressions, and forms. As before, the pertinent vocab words are underlined. So in the previous video to this sequel, we learned that a melody is designed with pitches on varying rhythms. The combination of the two elements are limitless, and there are thousands of melodies of varying characters and lengths. Melody is what is conceived as the main theme of music, and it can consist subparts called phrases, the musical term analogous to clauses or sentences. When the musical theme is short and brief, it is referred to as motive. Here are some famous melodies and motifs that we will encounter in class. First, this is Beethoven's Fifth Symphony opening motif. Next we hear Mozart's Sonata in C major, Koschel 545, the opening phrases. Next is the theme of Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Harmony is created when there are two or more pitches sounding simultaneously, and the group of notes are called a chord. There are two types of harmony: consonant, what people generally conceive as pleasurable sound, and dissonant, what is generally heard as jarring or disagreeable sound. Here are simple examples. Here is a major third, a consonant interval, and perfect fifth, also consonant, major second, dissonant, and major seventh, also dissonant. When three pitches are played together, we have a triad chord. The most fundamental chords are major and minor triads, but there are many, many more. You can get an idea of the possible variety of harmony in the context of a scale, which is a set of notes with particular intervallic arrangements. Intervals are distances between two notes. The simplest intervals are seconds and thirds, where the notes are adjacent to each other or skipped from one another respectively. Below is a sample scale, a C major scale. And you can see the melodic interval of a second between C and D, and a third between C and E. When you stack the notes of the scale in thirds on each note of the scale, you get the following chords: C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished, back to C major, octave higher. Of course, you can stack 4 notes or more and of varied intervals, not just in thirds. You can imagine the harmonic variety possible just within this scale alone. And when a piece of music uses more than one scale, which is often the case, the variety increases significantly and harmony becomes much more complex. Just like harmony is created by stacking pitches, Different textures are made through varying ways of layering melodies and harmonies in music. Monophonic texture results when there is one clear melody only. Listen to the following example. You can hear how all the voices are singing the same melody after the soloist part. Homophonic texture consists of one clear melody supported by accompanying chords or figures. Take a listen. You can hear the melody above and the accompaniment in the lower range. Polyphonic or contrapuntal texture is woven out of several melodies or counter melodies. A fugue is a genre that clearly demonstrates this texture. We will encounter this genre more closely later in the course, but you can get an idea through this example. Listen. The theme, which is called the subject in this form, has been stated 4 times in different ranges. The last texture is heterophonic, which is more commonly observed in folk music. When more than one voice is singing the same melody with a little diversions or ornamentations, this is described as a heterophony. Listen. We have already seen how vast and diverse music can be with all the possible rhythms, melodies, harmonies, and textures. But we have not even discussed the expressive dimensions of music. For starters, tempo, which refers to the speed of music, contributes significantly to the general character and mood of music. For example, a slow music is generally calming and soothing, whereas a fast music excites and energizes the listeners. There are common music terms that refer to the different tempos, such as adagio, andante, allegro, vivace, and presto, moving from slow to fast. Also, oftentimes there are changes in tempo depending on the expressive need. Accelerando means to accelerate and often creates thrill. Ritardando and rallentando both mean getting slower gradually, often needed to emphasize a particular phrase or cadences. Ritenuto means to get slower also, but immediately as opposed to gradually. Still, there are myriads of expressive markings to indicate particular character and details in music. Some commonly used ones are cantabile, which means to play singingly, espressivo, expressive with feelings, and rubato, which means to play with a bit of liberty in the beat. All such markings require seasoned taste and sense acquired by study of varying styles and contexts in music, and are usually open for wide variety of interpretations in performance. Some more specific markings include pio by pio, which means little by little, molto, much, and ma non troppo, not too much. With so many options of expressions added to the already limitless possibilities in rhythm, melody, harmony, and texture, indeed, music is immeasurable in what it can communicate. This is a good time to recall a definition from the introductory lecture on music fundamentals, that music is organized sound. Out of all the vast possibilities of sound that we've explored so far, it is not quite music until there's intentional, intelligent, and purposeful organization. Organization relies on recognizable pattern. The simplest way to accomplish the consistency is repetition. Here's an example of a form generated by the repetition of the melody.
Alligator, hedgehog, anteater, bear, rattlesnake, buffalo, anaconda, hare, bullfrog, woodchuck, wolverine, goose, whippoorwill, chipmunk, jackal, moose, mud turtle, whale, glowworm, bat, salamander, snail, and a Maltese cat, black squirrel, coon, opossum, wren, red squirrel, loon, South Guinea hen, polecat, dog, wild otter, rat, pelican, hog, and a dodo and a bat.
In music, repetition of themes and motifs generate forms at both micro and macro levels. Average listeners may not realize some of the repetitions because, aside from the literal repetitions, they are varied through many different techniques. Here are some sample techniques as covered in the assigned reading. The repetition in the opening of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony is sequenced, where we hear the motif restated on different notes. In Bach's Invention in C, we hear the repetition as a form of imitation, where the theme re-enters after the opening statement. In Mozart's Sonata in C, we hear the repetition in different keys, that is, in different sets of scales, first in C major, and then in F major. Still, there are many other ways to vary, including augmentation, where music is stretched out in longer values, diminution in truncation of the melody, fragmentation in bits and parts, inversions flipped in the contour, and textural changes, to name just the common ones. The repetitions and variations of musical phrases and motifs are delineated from one another by varying cadences. Cadences are endings of phrases, much like the punctuations in languages. Some are strong cadences, conclusive like a period. Some are left hanging like a question or a pause before a thematic change. It is relatively easy to identify the theme or the main melody in songs because the music coincides with the lyrics. In non vocal music, major cadences are often made clear by pauses or changes in timbre, texture, or theme itself, but many also require significant musicianship training to discern. You'll get a general sense for these changes as we study and analyze different forms in the class. Once you recognize the major cadential points in music, you will be able to follow the themes and their repetitions and variants, which in turn enables you to understand the organization of the music in the bigger context. Listed here are some common forms where you can see the bigger sections represented in letters. As you see, the concept of repetition and variation applies also in larger sections, generating many different forms. Samples of these forms will be covered in readings, discussions, and assignments, but it takes much practice to be able to make out the forms, so be sure to listen and follow through with the extra sample analysis given in the form analysis modules. And that wraps up our Music Fundamentals presentation for now, as we finish streaming through the many layers of the definition of music, organized sound. Again, we acknowledge that though the succinct description cannot fully capture all the workings of music, it gives a systematic overview of specific entities to listen for in music. The awareness of these specifics will direct your ear to be more focused and detailed in music, and your perceptions will also be more distinctive and descriptive beyond just vague feelings and moods. So be sure to review the vocabulary covered in the series, as you will be asked to use them in your descriptions of music throughout the course. As we survey some of the lasting masterpieces of music history, I look forward to everyone's inputs, insights, and imaginations captured skillfully in these new words and knowledge. I wish everyone a more enlightened listening, and I will see you all in the discussions.